Hey everybody, welcome to the Moms Making Money Show. I'm your host, Amie Pederson, business mentor and certified confidence coach for new female entrepreneurs. Today I have a really special guest. She is someone who I absolutely adore. I like to call her my spiritual self-care coach, I guess, if you will. And she has taught me so many things this year alone about myself, about how to kind of, mellow out my mind and deal with some of my anxiety triggers and so many different things. And she's just really overall freaking amazing. So one of the things that I was super excited about having her on this show for is because I feel like so many people need somebody like Megan in their lives. They need somebody who will call them out on their stuff when it needs to be called out and tell them like, hey, dude. And by the way, she says dude like me. So it was like a match made in heaven. You need to take a break or do this, do that, or you need to step up your game. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Megan Quinn. And Megan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Amy, thanks for that great intro. Thanks for having me on. So my name is Megan Parker Quinn. I call myself an intuitive Reiki practitioner. I am a soon-to-be published author and a spiritual self-love coach, I guess, would be a pretty sum-up accurate title for that. And what I like to do is I introduce people to the world of self-love and self-care, but then I also introduce to them the spiritual side of things. So it's like hippie and witchy and woo-woo kind of one-on-one for things. But meditation is my first love, and that's where I teach the most.
Yeah. So I always say that I suck at meditation. And one of the things that like Megan said is you don't suck at meditation. So stop telling yourself that, basically.
Yeah, everybody sucks at meditation. Yeah.
It's just knowing that, and like you kind of had walked me through at times, like a breathing exercise and just kind of focusing on my breathing and being present with that. And it's not that you erase your mind while you're sitting there with your legs crossed and your fingers pressed together. It's not about the nothingness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to, before we get going into kind of a different direction, do you want to talk a little bit about the value of meditation in your opinion?
Yeah, I would love to. I'm like, let me just get on my soapbox.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. When I first started meditating, it was actually because I was having a really hard time falling asleep at night. It was very ruminative, couldn't shut my mind off. I had just been diagnosed with a functional depression. My marriage was falling apart, hated my job, like the usual like shitstorm of life. And I started meditating at night. And then a couple weeks into it, I noticed that I was falling asleep quicker and quicker. And then I started to notice that I wasn't reacting the same way to certain people or situations that I used to. I wasn't as reactive. I didn't get angry as quickly. I wasn't like bawling at basically everything in life. And so that's when I kind of started to notice, I'm like, holy shit, like this is actually like just a little bit of a superpower. And that's when I really started to dive into meditation and exploring like what it means more and how to do it. And then I got really overwhelmed because I just feel like everybody has this idea in their mind that meditation is, like you said, like sitting in a room that's like perfectly zenned out with like a yogi chanting Om kind of thing, which it 100% can be, and that can be very impactful, but that's not what meditation always is. So I like to explain it that meditation is finding a way for your heart to be heard. And so many of us, I want to say like 95% of the people that I meet live with anxiety, and how we're often treating the symptoms of anxiety, but we're not getting to the root of it. And that's where my Reiki practice comes in. But to help people with a symptom of anxiety, I introduce them into a meditation practice and about how to create a space for your heart to be heard. Because I feel like our anxiety is like our heart screaming something and us not listening to it or being able to speak it out loud. And then it kind of gets trapped in our throat, which is where that choking feeling comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but by teaching meditation in a way that like you can breathe to music, you can meditate in the shower, you can do it when you're driving. Like it's so much simpler than people are introduced to. And it's really about just getting back into your breath and allowing those thoughts to come up and come out freely. It's not about not thinking anything at all. It's just about getting into your breath and into your body and listening to what your heart has to say and how you can have the relief and kind of like that anxiety relief after you've created that space. And that's where I get like super passionate.
Yeah. And I feel like that's such a relief to so many people because a lot of times, you know, they're like, well, I can't, and myself included, like totally throwing myself under the bus here. I used to just think that I was like a meditation failure and that I just couldn't do it. And that, you know, because I was doing it wrong but ultimately I just had these unrealistic expectations of what it even was.
Yeah, well, completely. And that's what like society and culture is like that. And I have a hard time with the yoga and meditation community myself because I feel like we don't do enough to introduce people to it in different ways. Everybody just kind of expects to like be thrown into the pool and it's sink or swim. And to achieve a state of actual meditation where you're not thinking anything at all takes years of practice, like years. And it's very difficult to do. And then when we first start to do it, we're completely flooded with thoughts that we've been trying to avoid thinking of for like usually 30 plus years. And they just like overwhelm and drown us, right? And you're like, well, that wasn't helpful at all.
Right.
But how that is completely normal and happens to everybody. And like that flood that happens when you first start to get into your breath and get into that like quiet space, that flood gets less and less and it gets smaller and smaller and it gets clearer and clearer the more that you practice it. And that's the thing. It's like meditation is a practice. It's something that you should be doing on a regular basis all the time, like going to the gym or flossing your teeth kind of thing. You need to maintain it so that you don't get the huge floods. And I notice like myself, if I'm not doing my daily meditation practice, if I go any longer than 3 days, I usually end up having an anxiety or a panic attack because it's like my body's just like screaming to be listened to. And that's what anxiety is for me. That's how I teach anxiety is it's your body trying to say something and you just need to find a way that you can listen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was at the get your blood drawn place, the lab, I guess if you will. Mm-hmm. And it's at the new doctor that I'm seeing at a naturopath, and they have their own phlebotomist, I guess is what they're called. And he was talking to me that if every child right now, I think he said at the age of 9, learned meditation, that it would almost eliminate, like every child, like 100% of children learn to meditate. It could help basically annihilate violence in the world.
Completely. And that's the thing. Meditation helps helps you remove yourself from like the situation just by one level. So you can kind of, instead of like Headspace, the app explains it as like cars driving by on the highway. So instead of like being in the car and on the highway, you're like up on the cliff watching the cars in the highway go by. Yeah. So you're not participating in the thoughts. You're just kind of like watching what's happening, and it can really help you not react to things like out of anger or fear or loss or shame or embarrassment or whatever those like what we call darker feelings or shadow work happens that. Yeah. So, but yeah, if the kids could be taught that and us to learn that too, the world would be a very different place, I think.
Yeah, it's super funny. My son goes to a Montessori school, and it's a private Montessori school, so they don't have to follow the Common Core stuff, which I love because I can't Common Core math because I think it's stupid. So I said it. I said it on national communication, whatever this podcast is called. I think that it's stupid. So they don't have to follow that guideline, but they teach, they have like this peaceful classroom kind of mantra, and they teach meditation. So even the kids that are there from, I think they allow kids that are like 2 years old and up all the way to the 6th grade, they start learning meditation. And I didn't even realize it until I walked into the living room one day, and my son's sitting there, and I totally busted him meditating, like legs crossed, fingers pressed together, eyes closed. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That's so awesome. He goes, Mom, I'm meditating. Just a second.
Yeah, I'm busy.
Oh.
That's amazing. And that's so amazing. It's like when you start to teach that, like the kids will start to ask for it, and they recognize so much faster than like most adults do that like that's what they need at that time. And it helps. It's just like why timeouts are effective for kids, that it's like, because you're basically putting them into like a forced meditation almost, right? That it's like, no, you got to sit here and you got to think about like what's bothering you and what you did kind of thing. You're like, okay, well, let's think about it and see where this is really coming from. So it's an amazing gift.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like, I don't know. And I was so like, just my heart just kind of, thumped a little harder when I saw that. I was like, oh.
You're so proud for them, right? And it's so hopeful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know. I mean, it wouldn't have been like, it wasn't like a deal breaker, like the school has to have meditation. Because when I enrolled him, I wasn't even thinking that. I was just like, oh, good. They don't have homework. Like they have an anti-homework policy. And no Common Core crap that I don't have to try to relearn how to do math, those, and it's a nice, hands-on environment. So that was such a bonus. And I think a lot of people miss the point, and all the books you read, all the wealth books, all the, I'm a millionaire, I want to be a millionaire, all the millionaire guru books out there, every single one of them pretty much talks about taking time every single day, and how successful people, how most millionaires take the time in their daily practice to do some sort of meditation. Yeah.
Well, it just provides like insane clarity, right? So you're not reacting to somebody else's situation or questions or even offerings, or it's like, when you get like the offer for a huge opportunity, you're like, this could be amazing. But then when you stop to actually think about it, you're like, okay, is this what, like, does this align with my business? Is this distracting me? Is this like something that I want to participate in? What's the long game? What's the short game? And that's the thing with meditation, is it helps you sort through all those things. So you're not reacting, you're making clear and conscious decisions about basically anything that's in your life or anything that's bothering you. So to be able to do that on a business level is very, very impactful.
Yeah. And they just basically say it's part of their self-care routine, which I heard, I went to a conference earlier this year, and the woman speaking has a multi-million-dollar company. And she basically said, if you want to be on the fast track to burnout, skip your self-care.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And I see it all the time. It's like, because I teach that like everybody has a yin and a yang energy, and the yin or the yang is a very forward moving, it's action dominated. It's like, that's hustle mode, and we yang all the time. And how that's usually very, like, that's what's rewarded and often where we feel the most validated. But when we miss out on the yin side of energy, which is the rest and like restoring and relaxing and learning and absorbing, that when we miss out that, then we get unbalanced, and that's what leads to burnout. And I think that that's a lot of the thing. Like once I get people into meditation practice and they get deeper into my side of the business, that's what they're looking for, is how like people don't know how to like yin anymore, like quote unquote. Like we don't know how to rest and relax, and we don't know what our body needs or how to do it. And once we find that yin energy that we're looking for and balancing it with our yang and our hustle and our moving, then you actually have even more momentum than you ever thought you would have before. But because you're taking the time to relax and to balance that, then you don't get burnt out. And those are the people that you see, they're like, how do you like that? Like they have the balance and the harmony that I think so many of us seek so hard.
Yeah. Well, even like when I was down, I'd done the Moms Making Money retreat down in Cabo. I guess it's been almost 2 months ago now. And so we had the retreat was on, or, the 2 VIP days were Saturday and Sunday. So I got there Friday, spent Saturday and Sunday with the ladies. It was 2 days of just awesome content. Yeah, magic. There's no really other way to describe it. Just, being in person with each other, everybody's energy and vibe was amazing and uplifting and just wonderful all around. But then I spent the next 5 days there, just like chilling by the pool. I took a nap, I think for the first time in, I don't even know how long.
Forever. Yeah.
Like I have
your
a 2-year-old,
family.
so Yeah, I have an almost 2-year-old, so it's been at least almost 2 years since I've taken a nap, right? So him and I took a nap. Like, I just really used that time to kind of recharge my batteries. And from that, I had so many good ideas for my business, so much inspiration, and then followed it with like my best month of income.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like when you start to recognize the pattern of when you rest and relax after a season of yang. So it's like you were like in that yang feeling for those 2 days and you get that flow with those energy, like, and it's hard because that's a very addictive feeling. Like it just feels amazing. Right. But then once you have that time to yin and have that rest, and it's like, when you're ready to yang again, you're just like hit the ground running, and you accomplish amazing things and are rewarded for it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I fully agree. And it's nice to just take the time, to just be present in the not hustle mode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're talking about all the things, yin, yang, woo woo, all kinds of like awesome stuff that I love, you love, a lot of us love. But tell us a little bit about when you first got started down this journey, because you didn't just wake up and been, a Reiki master or yin and yang and witchy woo woo your entire life,
crystals
right?
in my bra kind of stuff. No.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got started. What kind of like chatter did you get from the outside? What kind of self-doubt did you have? Basically, what did you have to overcome to get to this, confident, mindful, peaceful place that you are now in your business?
Oh man. Well, to start off, I think it's not a struggle, but it's still something I deal with on a very regular basis, because I feel like the life that I've chosen is not an easy one, and it's very out of the box. So actually, I'm trained as a medical office assistant. So I've worked in hospitals, I've worked for oncology clinics, I've worked in mental health clinics, and I've kind of been in a lot of corporate. I was an executive assistant at a major university here. And it was not where I wanted to be. And I just remember finding it so exhausting all the time, and just all the corporate bullshit and the politics. And it just never felt right. And then I had my kids and I wanted to stay home, and like got some side hustles going there. I used to work for an MLM company, and I had a day home and was doing that. And again, it just didn't feel right. And I just feel like everything that's happened in my life was very much directing me to this moment. So this is like my biggest like day, was the day that I listed the house because I'd asked my husband for a divorce, was the day I got fired from a corporate job that I had taken so that I could afford to live on my own. And that was 2 days before I was scheduled to go to the summit conference of a company that I didn't know I wanted to work for anymore. And I knew that didn't really align with my messaging and who I was. So it was basically like literally every aspect of my life felt like it had fallen apart on one day. And I just remember telling my family, and then them expecting me to have like essentially like a mental breakdown, which I was probably way overdue for. But I just remember laying in my yard and being like, no, like I'm going to be okay. This is all happening for me, not to me. I wanted a clean slate, fresh start. I'd been meditating on a very regular basis for them. I was just starting to dip my toe into this really witchy woo world, where I had like a intuitive coaching call with a psychic medium, and she had given me some guidance about where to go, and I had a plan, and just like, no, like I'm going to be okay. The universe fully supports me. And then from that day forward, it was just like forward moving, and everything that I needed kind of fell onto my lap. But how I've always kind of been the black sheep of my family, but now I'm like, I can like connect with people who have died, and I can feel what other people's are feeling, even though they're trying to block it. And just by touching your feet, I can tell what it is that you need in your life and where your anxiety is coming from. And that freaks the fuck out of a lot of people, including like my life partner, right?
Right.
They're like, they don't understand it. And it's, how do you explain it to people? And Reiki's like essentially using the force on people, and how it just seems like so ridiculous and so out of the norm. And why would you choose that every time? But I have a really good therapist that helps me through a lot of my really tough situations and my communication with other people. And I have done enough experimenting with self-care to know what I need and when I need it. So I have a very strict spiritual self-care practice that I do every morning. And I also align it with the new and the full moons for a more elaborate practice that helps me keep my energy up and my heart being heard and just like that calm and centered that I'm looking for. But like if this was 400 years ago when I was doing what I was doing, I would be like burned at the stake.
Yep.
Kind of stuff. And I think it's just, I've read a lot of books that have literally changed my life and my perception on stuff, and how I recognize after doing a lot of, there's a great book called Mirror Work by Louise Hayes. And it's about how every judgment that is reflected on you, and this is very similar to the Judgment Detox by Gabrielle Bernstein, that anything that you judge of somebody else is actually a reflection of an unhealed part of you, but how their judgment of you is also like a reflection of something that they're afraid of or an unhealed part of them. So I think just with recognizing that people's judgments and very unkind words sometimes are not, a lot of the times it's not about me. It's about something that I'm reflecting in them that scares them or is part of their fear. And knowing that that's part of my role. And I think part of like, I believe in soul contracts. So like everybody signs a contract of a purpose of here in life. And I think that one of mine is to be a mirror for a lot of other people and to show them and like scare them. Right. And I do a lot of courageous things regardless of what anybody thinks. And I for sure have days that are filled with hurt tears and being crying and just not feeling like I ever belong or that I'm understood or heard or that what I'm doing is not evil or weird. It's just different. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. But I think I have enough tools in my toolkit to know what I need when I need it. And a lot of that came also from doing a lot of inner child work with my therapist. And then again, with some life coaches and creative and business coaches too, about being able to have a conversation with like essentially the 8-year-old that's inside you. That's like, why can't you just be like everybody else? And then people wouldn't think you're so strange and talk about you behind your back and think you're psycho and
right,
not make fun of you for carrying crystals and saging and doing all this stuff. But I have a regular conversation with that inner child and just being like, no, like regardless even if I had to go back and do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing and I would choose this life over and over. And I think a big part of that too is also knowing my why, that like when my inner chatter and that gremlin comes out being like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. No one's going to like buy into what you're teaching. And even the meditation is much more mainstream. So that's easier to talk about. But when you start talking about spirit guides and oracle cards and being able to connect on like teaching people to connect with their psychic ability and their mediumship ability, that people just, it's not as accepted, right? But to be able to have the conviction to keep talking about it is just really knowing what my why is and like, why am I here and what my aim is for? Because I'm not here to convince. I have to remind myself that I'm like you, like there's so many of us that are like lighthouses, right? Like it is not my job to tell you what to do, how to steer your ship, what to put on it. I'm just simply here to be like, this is where you can go.
Yeah.
This is where danger is. Here's some light to shed on the situation and good luck kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. And that's even the same in my business. Well, it's completely different, but like I can only give people kind of that guiding light in the tools that they need. It's up to them to swing the tools and follow the light. And you know what I mean? So, you know, as far as building a business, but that goes with building your spiritual practice as well. And I feel like this is kind of my thought on it. And I could be wrong, and some people might think that I'm nuts too. But first of all, I wanted to kind of go back because I feel like you just basically told us that you were like the spiritual Jedi.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah. So I equate myself to being like Yoda or like Morpheus off of,
Is that the Matrix?
The Matrix. Yes, the Matrix. Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And I just, when you said like something about working with the Force, I was like, ooh, she's a spiritual Jedi, but I didn't want to interrupt you because you did such a good thing going with what you were talking about. And then I chuckled even too a little bit when you were like, oh, I see, I thought you were going to say, I see dead people, like the kid from the movie.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a sixth sense. And this is how I like recognize that I had this ability is like, because I'm a writer and an author that I'm like, oh, I just thought I had an overactive imagination. Because when people tell me stories about someone that would die, to be like, oh, I wonder if this is what they look like in this. And then I started noticing that every time that people would tell me something about somebody that had died, they'd be wearing a red shirt. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, why is everybody wearing red? Oh, that's just must be because I watched the movie. I'm like, I haven't seen that movie in like since it came out. Like, why is this? Yeah. And then it was through a meditation and through some card pulls and some connections with my spirit guides. They're like, yeah, by the way, you see dead people. And it would come up in people's Reiki sessions. And like, I think your grandma's here. Like, and it's just, but it's mine. Like, it's so crazy. Like when you say it out loud, it's just like, what? Like, how would I expect anybody to ever believe that? But then stuff just happens and I just know things that I shouldn't know about people that I have no idea about and getting better and better about it each time, which is kind of crazy too.
Yeah. So for those of you who are listening who have no interest in spirit or anything like that, a lot of people, so this kind of what I was going to say is a lot of people who are religious believe in spirit and heaven and the next place and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's almost just like it could just be like a different terminology. Like some of us believe that it's like universe, some of us believe that it's God, some of us believe, like there's all different kinds of religions.
Yeah. They're just different languages, and like what I teach is not a religious component, it's the spiritual side of things. So I feel like religion is a more organized thing and there's more rules and guidelines about things, but the spiritual practice that I just teach is about connecting with the spiritual side that can go hand in hand with a religion or not.
Yeah. So the way like when I kind of explain things to people or even like I'll talk to people about like, well, what's a spirit guide? Like, haven't you seen the movie Coco? Like,
yeah, totally.
Have the Alabrije, the spirit guides. They're amazing. Don't you know?
Yeah. That is very much like what it is. And it's just like your guardian angels, right? Like whatever language is that feels the best for you is what you can use it for. Yeah.
So for anybody who is listening that hopefully that kind of like opened a new door and had like a little bit of, aha type of moment that like, I actually do believe in this stuff. I just called it something different.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Perfect. So with all of that, because so many people, even when you just go back to basic religion, so many people have such a very profound opinion. Mm-hmm. And they're usually pretty unwavering in that. Did you find a lot of like people like giving you like weird looks and being like, okay, crazy lady, like when you first got started out that you had to kind of overcome some of that? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but.
Yeah, well, it's just like, I find that I think just within my particular family that it's like one of those, like, if you don't ask her, she's not going to talk about it. So I don't think anybody that I'm related to ever asks me like how my work is going because they just don't want to talk about it. Mm. And I have had some people like unfriend me from Facebook and a lot of people that just straight out are like, you're a liar and crazy and
wow.
And lost like quite a few. I've been going through some like friend shedding and detox relationships going because it's just kind of once you get into this and people don't understand it, you're just so different. You just don't fit in anymore. But how it's just in my own heart, I know that it's like a part of my journey and that's a lesson for me to learn that even if I'm not accepted, is this something that I still want to choose to talk about and choose to teach about? And do I want to stay small and quiet so that I fit in for everybody else? Or is this like part of it, right? So it's again, it's just knowing that practice that it's things don't happen to me, they happen for me. So even in the super shit situations of someone telling you that you're crazy and a liar, that you're like, okay, like, what is this really about? Because I know I'm not lying.
Right.
And that I could be crazy, but I don't think
you're my kind of crazy at least. So.
Yeah. And then that's the thing too, right? That it's just like, no, I'm just like not for those people. And that's like more than fine. Like I'm not here to convert anybody. Right.
Right.
Like, I'm just, if you want to talk about it, I'm here. And if you don't, I'm going to love you anyway. So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. And I feel like too, where, we were talking about like the yin and yang, how there's kind of like a balance, or there should be like that harmony and balance. I feel like too, like the people that leave your life, not that leave your life, but like the people who no longer want to be friends with you or follow part of your life or support your journey or whatever, that they are just making room for the new people to come in who do want to support you and want to hear what you have to say, kind of like they're just making room for the law of attraction. They're like, oh, okay, I'm not part of this magnetic field. Let me get out of the way because I was blocking something amazing coming in.
Totally. And it's one of those things that once you make space for something, it's amazing what comes in for it too. And then I think too, like I practice and teach that everybody in your life, like you are like a tree, and some of the people in your life are there as leaves that come and go with the season. And then there's some people that are branches that are there to learn from you and to feed off of you. And then there's some people that are the roots of your tree, that are the base of your foundation and are going to be there for you no matter what the weather, kind of stuff. Right. So it's just knowing when to let go. But I think that that's the scary part about like kind of starting to get into this spiritual woo-woo side of stuff, is it scares people because they're like, oh God, like if I get into this and start talking about it, then I could lose like a lot of people in my life. And it happens, and sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not, but it's just, you got to do what you got to do. Plus I've read the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and that made a big difference too.
Yeah. I have that book on my audio. I'm about halfway through it. I get the squirrel in my brain every once in a while. I'm like, oh, there's a new book over here by Rachel Hollis.
Oh, I know, Shani. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Daring Greatly by Brene Brown was another very impactful book about that. And she talks about people being in your arena, right? And it's like, are people in the cheap seats, or are they down like in their arena with you? And unless you're in this arena with me, then your opinion does not matter. And Rachel Hollis always talks about how, she just talked about this on her podcast, like I think last week, that other people's opinions of you, like they're none of your business. They don't matter, and they shouldn't impact or change your dreams.
Right. No, agree. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that outside chatter or the fear of what other people think. And it's really awakening when you find the message that you have to give. And it's funny because I have a podcast that I actually recorded about this very topic, and it hasn't come out yet, but the message that you have, it has to be like, you have to believe in it so much. It has to be so unshakable that if somebody were to tell you that it's stupid, that you could almost just like laugh it off, like, okay, clearly you don't understand what my message is. And, like for me, helping women start a business, because, like some people who in my family, my extended family, have told me like, I don't think you should be doing this. I think that you should just be focused on, keeping up your housework. And not to say that my house is
being a mom for the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't think you should be doing this, but they don't know that the person who I had just spoken to on the phone was a single mom. And she was just telling me that the things that we had implemented in her business provided food for her children to eat because, that helped her grow her business. They don't know that. They don't see that ripple effect because they don't get it. And so for me, that unshakable message, that unshakable why for me of helping these women, it doesn't matter. Now I can honestly say that I don't care what other people think. I used to say it before, but I didn't mean it. But now, now I actually feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of that just comes with like more and more learning of recognizing that everybody has their own journey. Right. And then it's like, this isn't personal. This isn't about me. And again, it's like, it's life happening for you, not to you. But I think that also comes with like your your spiritual practice, right? And just knowing it's about something so much more than that. You take things less personally, and you really do start to not care what other people think.
Yeah.
And how that's very empowering.
Yep. It's easier to kind of release them, like bless and release, like, okay,
yeah, totally.
Have a great life. I wish you the best, see on the flip side type of thing.
Love and light either way. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I could obviously talk to Megan about all of this amazing stuff all day long, but she actually has a free gift for all of you guys listening. I'm going to have her tell you guys a little bit about it. I will put the link in the show notes so you can click back over there to access it. It's going to be a meditation. So Megan, will you tell us a little bit about this and why it's so awesome?
Yeah, I just have, it's like my quick, it's like, I call it it's saved in my computer as a pop your cherry meditation. And it's just about getting into your breath. So just, again, reiterating that this is not about thinking anything. It's just about getting back into your breath, and a simple breathing exercise that you can do at any time to kind of help you get out of that anxiety and back into your heart space. So I'll have that up on my website, which is Megan Parker Quinn with 2 N's.as.me, and you can sign up for that and it be guided right to you, or you can search for it on YouTube as well.
Awesome. And we'll give you guys the quick link for it too, so you can just hop right over to the website and get that. So much good stuff here today, you guys. So much good stuff. And, like I said, Megan is my spiritual self-care coach. I can't say that all in one.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
And I just adore her. So if you guys would like to have a shout out on this show, please feel free to subscribe and leave a review. We are going to be reading reviews starting on the next episode. So you might be able to get yourself shouted out on the show. And also, if you feel like there's anybody who can benefit from the messages and the guests that are part of this show, such as Megan, please feel free to share this podcast with them. We would love to have them and love to connect them with some of our featured experts. So thank you so much, Megan, for popping on. It's been such a pleasure, and I just adore working with you. I adore all of the insight that you give, and this was so much fun.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me, Amie.
You're welcome. Talk soon.